The mine was still glowing, not from light. From peace. It was the first time in days that John heard nothing. No blasters, no boots, no alarms. Just the soft breath of a baby, sleeping safely in her mother's arms. He sat against a rock wall, tired but alive. His shirt was torn, hands burned, but he smiled. They had survived. Across the chamber, Zira gently rocked Lumi. Her face was streaked with dust and tears, but her eyes held something new. Hope. She's resting, Zira said softly. She saved us all, John replied, voice low. Zira looked down at the child. She doesn't even know what she did. She just felt fear and love, and somehow that was enough, John nodded. Sometimes that's stronger than any weapon. For a long moment, they said nothing, just silence. Warm, healing silence. Then came the sound of a ship. John's eyes snapped open. He stood fast, aiming his blaster toward the narrow tunnel. But Zira raised her hand. No, she said. It's not them. Outside the mine, a small scout ship landed quietly on the rocks. Its soft lights painted the stone walls silver. A tall figure stepped out, not in armor, but in soft robes. An old alien man with kind eyes and a tired smile. Zira walked out to meet him. Brother, she whispered. The man embraced her. You made it. John followed slowly, blaster still in hand. The man turned to him. You're the one who kept them alive? John gave a short nod. Then you're welcome in our new world. John raised a brow. New world? The man pointed. Up at the sky. A hidden colony, far from the war. A place where no labs, no hunters, no governments will find her. A place to grow, to live. Zira looked at John. Come with us. He paused. He had always lived alone. Always fought for others. But never for himself. But now, something had changed. He looked at Lumi. She opened her eyes and smiled at him. Small, bright, pure. John smiled back. Yeah, he said. I think it's time I stopped surviving and started living. They boarded the ship together. As the engines rose, the morning sun touched the forest below, shining over the place where it all began. A cabin. A mine. A war. Now behind them. Ahead, a new life. The air inside the cabin changed. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the fear. It was energy. Soft, strange, growing stronger. Zira woke first. She felt it in her skin, like gentle sparks crawling over her arms. Her eyes opened fast. She turned toward the fire. The baby was floating. Lumi's small body hovered inches above the blanket, her eyes wide open and glowing like twin stars. Her tiny hands trembled in the air, and a soft humming sound filled the room. Zira gasped and reached for her. Lumi, no. Stop, you'll burn out. John, half asleep in a chair, snapped awake. He jumped to his feet and froze. What the hell? Lumi suddenly dropped to the ground, but didn't cry. Instead, she looked around the room with calm eyes and raised one finger toward the door. Then the humming stopped. Did she just... John started. Zira nodded, voice shaking. She sensed something. A second later, alarms from the outer traps began to beep. John rushed to the monitor. Motion, north side. One of them just crossed the line. He grabbed his blaster. Zira held Lumi close, whispering to her. Stay with me, my light. Stay strong. Then something strange happened again. Lumi's eyes flashed bright white. And on the monitor, one red dot disappeared. Wait, John said, staring. That one's gone. No sound, no fight. Just gone. He checked the camera feed. Where the soldier had been, only dust remained floating in the wind. What did she do? He asked. Zira looked down at Lumi, who now looked tired, eyes half closed. She doesn't know how. But when she's scared, she protects herself. It's not just power. It's instinct. John sat back slowly. So she's not just a target. She's a weapon and a shield. No, Zyra said firmly. She's a child first. But yes, she has more power than any being the labs ever made. That's why they want her. That's why they'll never stop. Outside, another red light blinked on the screen. Another soldier coming closer. John stood, voice steady. And we don't wait. We leave now, they packed fast. John gave Zyra a small shield unit, old but still working. He wrapped Lumi carefully in thick clothes and tucked her against Zyra's chest. Then he opened the back door, revealing a narrow path into the woods. The baby's glow dimmed. But her hand reached toward the trees again, pointing left. John paused. She's showing us the safe path? Zyra nodded. She doesn't know how she knows, but she knows. And so they followed her light into the dark. Behind them, the cabin stood empty. Silent until a flash of red crossed the front steps. Another soldier. He stepped inside, and the baby's energy that still lingered in the air exploded. The cabin lit up like lightning, and in seconds, both the intruder and the home were gone, turned to smoke. Far away. John looked back and whispered, "Good girl." The mine was cold, silent, and dead. John lit an old lantern and stepped carefully inside the narrow tunnel. Dust fell from the ceiling as his boots echoed on the stone floor. Behind him, Zyra clutched Lumi tightly, her eyes darting around the darkness. "This place," she whispered, "it feels like a tomb." "It was," John said. "Long ago. Miners were trapped here during a cave-in. No one ever came back." Zyra looked uneasy. "Is it safe?" "No," John said. "But it's the only place where they won't expect us to hide." They reached a large, hollow chamber deep inside. Rusted machines stood like frozen skeletons. There was no light, no sound, only the quiet breaths of a baby who had stopped glowing. Lumi was tired. Too tired. John set down his bag, pulled out traps, wires, and his last energy grenade. "This is where we hold them," he said. Zyra placed Lumi gently on a blanket, then turned to John. "We can still run." "They're too close now," he replied. "We run, they catch us, we fight, we buy time, you escape." "No," she said firmly. "We stay, we fight together." John looked at her, and for the first time saw not just a mother, but a warrior. They began setting up defenses. Traps on the floor, wires across the entrance. A hidden blaster rig behind rocks. Hours passed. Then footsteps. Not normal ones. Heavy, metal. The sound of hunters. Zyra picked up Lumi and held her close, whispering something soft in their alien tongue. John crouched near the door, blaster ready. Then they came. 3 black armored soldiers stepped into the tunnel, silent, glowing eyes searching the dark. The first trap triggered. A blinding flash. 1 soldier screamed and fell. John opened fire. Blue light blasted through the tunnel. Rock exploded. Smoke filled the air. Zyra joined the fight, throwing up a small energy shield as a laser bolt hit the wall near Lumi. Another soldier fell, but the last one, bigger than the rest, kept coming. He was stronger, faster, and he wasn't alone. Behind him, more soldiers marched in. John's blaster clicked empty. "We're out of time," he shouted. Then it happened. Lumi woke up. She opened her eyes, and this time, they didn't just glow, they shone. Pure white light filled the mine. Rocks trembled, machines shook. The enemy froze mid-step. Then came the sound, not a scream, not a cry, but a pulse deep and powerful, like a heartbeat. From the stars. Soldiers dropped their weapons. The large one turned to flee, but couldn't move. Lumi floated again, eyes calm, hands raised. Then, with one final flash, every enemy in the tunnel vanished. Gone. Silence returned. Zyra collapsed to her knees, crying softly. John stood still, heart pounding, eyes locked on the child. The war was over. At least for tonight. It started with a whisper. John was dozing in his chair, the firelight flickering softly across the wooden walls of the cabin. The baby was asleep beside him, wrapped safely in a blanket. The storm outside had calmed, but the silence felt unnatural. Then he heard it, a voice, faint, raspy, full of fear. "They're coming." John's eyes snapped open. The alien woman was moving. Her fingers gripped the edge of the couch. Her lips were trembling, speaking words that didn't make sense. They saw the signal. And then suddenly she screamed, "No, don't take her." She sat up, her eyes wild, her chest heaving. Her gaze darted around the room like a trapped animal. When her eyes found the baby, she lunged forward, wrapping her arms around the child. John moved fast. "Hey, easy. You're safe here." She turned to him, eyes wide with panic. "You don't understand. They'll come now." You activated." "It didn't you?" John paused. "The cube?" She nodded, tears filling her eyes. "It's a tracker. A secret one. They put it inside my bag. I thought I disabled it. If it scanned you, it sent a signal." John felt sick. "Who are they?" he asked. The woman pulled the baby closer to her chest. "Hunters. From my world. They're not soldiers. They're not police. They work for the labs, the ones who made her." John blinked. "Made her?" The woman looked down at the baby, her voice cracking. "She's not a normal child. They call her Project Lumi. She was part of an experiment, a mix of many alien genes. She was supposed to be a weapon." John stared at the child, now sleeping again in her mother's arms. "So small, so quiet, so innocent, and you stole her?" he asked gently. She nodded slowly. "No, I saved her. I carried her inside me. I was the test subject. They used me to grow her. And when I found out what they planned to do after she was born, I escaped." John sat down, rubbing his hands through his hair. Everything made sense now. The baby's strange calmness. The glowing cube. The tracking signal. "They'll be here soon," the woman said. "Once the signal is sent, it takes them less than a day to track. I don't know how far they were, but we don't have much time." John stood up, his voice calm, but firm. "Then we prepare." The woman looked at him in surprise. "You're not going to hand us over?" John walked to the corner of the cabin and pulled back a rug. Under it was a hatch. He opened it and began pulling out old weapons, a dusty drone and a half-charged power shield. "I didn't survive 3 wars just to watch a child be taken and turned into a weapon," he said. "They want to come here, let them try." The alien mother watched him with wide eyes. "Who are you?" she asked softly. John gave a faint smile as he loaded a battery into his blaster. "Just a man who's tired of watching the innocent suffer." The forest wasn't silent anymore. Birds had vanished. No bugs, no wind, just heavy stillness, like the world was holding its breath. John stepped onto the porch of his cabin, blaster in hand. He scanned the tree line through old military binoculars. His breath caught. There between the trees something moved. Not animals, not local people, shapes in the dark. Too smooth. Too fast. He adjusted the lens, and then he saw them, tall figures in black armor, their suits blending with the shadows. Their helmets had red lights that scanned the ground. They didn't walk like humans. They moved like machines, silent. "Perfect, hunting." John lowered the binoculars. "They're here." Inside, Zira stood at the window, holding Lumi close to her chest. Her eyes met John's, and he nodded. "How many?" she asked, her voice tight. 4, maybe 5, John sighed. "Scouts first. The rest will come if these ones don't report back." Zira's grip on the baby tightened. "If they take her, it's over. She won't survive their tests. They'll open her mind, pull her apart. She's just a child." John walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Not while I'm alive," he said simply. Zira looked at him, surprised by the calm in his voice. John turned and opened a wooden chest near the fireplace. Inside were traps, motion sensors, and one old plasma mine barely working, but still dangerous. I was saving these for when old age got boring, he joked, trying to ease the tension. He started placing the traps outside the cabin, setting up alarms and cameras linked to an old screen inside. Then he hid a small drone in a tree to follow the soldiers. Back inside, Zira placed Lumi into a blanket nest beside the fire. The baby's eyes glowed gently. Watching the flames. Suddenly, the drone sent a signal. On the screen, a red dot blinked. "They're spreading out," John said, searching the area. Then the screen glitched. One dot vanished. "They found the drone," he muttered. "Smart." Zira stepped forward. "They'll find us soon," John nodded. "That's why we move at sunrise." "Where?" "There's an old mining tunnel in the hills," he said. "Leads to a ghost town. Number. One's been there in years. We can hide, maybe find transport." Zira looked at Lumi. "Will she survive the trip?" John looked back at her. "We don't have a choice." As night fell, the forest grew darker, heavier. Red lights flickered between the trees, moving slowly. Closer. Inside the cabin, John sat by the window, blaster resting across his lap. Eyes locked on the shadows. He whispered to himself, almost like a promise. "You picked the wrong baby to come for." The night was cold and quiet. John sat alone in his small wooden cabin on the edge of the forest. His home was far from the cities, far from noise, far from war. He liked it that way. He was a former soldier, and all he wanted now was peace. Wind howled outside. A storm was coming. Rain tapped on the windows like small fingers. John poured himself a cup of hot tea and sat by the fireplace, trying to warm his tired bones. Suddenly, there was a sound. Knock, knock, knocked. He froze. No one ever came here. Not at this hour. Not in this storm. John stood up slowly. His soldier instincts woke up. He reached for the old blaster under the table, just in case. Then, he walked to the door and opened it. What he saw shocked him. A tall, thin figure stood in the rain. Her silver skin glowed faintly under the moonlight. Her eyes were big and blue, full of pain. She was holding something in her arms, a small bundle wrapped in a worn blanket. She looked at John, her lips trembling. "Please," she whispered in a weak voice. "My baby." And then she collapsed. John caught her before she hit the ground. He looked down at the bundle in her arms. It was a baby, an alien baby. Its small face was calm, but its body was cold. Without thinking, John carried them both inside. He laid the alien woman on the couch and checked her pulse. Was alive but weak. She hadn't eaten in days. Her clothes were wet and torn. Her body shook with cold. The baby made a soft whimpering sound. It was hungry. John quickly wrapped the baby in a dry towel and placed it near the fireplace. Then, he found one of his old shirts and gently dressed the child to keep it warm. He looked at the mother again. Her face was pale, her breathing slow. "Are you?" he whispered. "Why are you here?" Of course, she didn't answer. She was unconscious. John got up and opened a cabinet. He found a can of milk and a small bottle. It wasn't made for alien babies, but it was all he had. He warmed the milk over the fire, poured it into the bottle, and carefully fed the baby. The little one drank slowly. Its eyes opened just a bit. They were deep purple, glowing softly. For a moment, John stared into those eyes. They looked wise, too wise for a baby. He shook the thought away. Maybe he was just tired. Once the baby was fed and warm, John turned back to the mother. He took a blanket and covered her. As he did, something fell from her pocket. A small metal object with alien symbols. John picked it up. It was cold and smooth. A light blinked on its side. Curious, he pressed a button. Beep. Suddenly a red light scanned his face. He dropped the device in shock. The light turned green, and a voice spoke in a strange language he didn't understand. John stared at it. "What?" The hell did I just do? He placed the device on the table and sat down, his eyes moving between the sleeping woman, the baby, and the strange object. This was not a normal visit. Who was she? Why was she carrying that device? Why did she come? To his door? And most of all, who was after her? Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Rain fell harder now. The storm had arrived. Inside the cabin, the fire crackled gently. The baby slept peacefully, curled up in a towel. The alien mother still didn't wake. Her breathing was slow but steady. John leaned back in his chair, the blaster resting on his lap. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but deep inside, he knew one thing. This was not a mistake. She came to him for a reason, and he wasn't going to let anything happen to them. On his watch. The baby was silent. Too silent. John sat near the fire, watching the little alien child sleep. Most babies moved, cried, or made little sounds in their sleep, but not this one. It was still. Too still. His eyes shifted to the woman on the couch. She hadn't woken up since she collapsed at his door. Her breathing was shallow, her skin pale and cold like morning ice. John stood up slowly. He couldn't sleep. Something felt off. He walked over to her bag. It had fallen near the door when he carried her in. It looked like a normal travel bag, except it was made from a shiny, flexible material he had never seen before. Carefully, he opened it. Inside were a few things: a cracked energy capsule, a piece of dried food, a folded blanket, and something heavy wrapped in cloth. He pulled the cloth back. A strange metal cube stared up at him. It was small, smooth, and glowed faintly with blue lines. There were alien symbols across it, pulsing like a heartbeat. John turned it over in his hands. No buttons, no screen. Just glowing marks. As he touched one of the symbols, the cube blinked. Click. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a crystal inside. It pulsed softly, as if alive. Then the cube spoke. Level 9 security. Human DNA detected. John's eyes widened. What the hell? A small screen lit up on the cube's surface. A symbol flashed. A warning. Danger. High priority target. Tracking enabled. John froze. He didn't understand the full message, but one word hit him hard. Tracking. He looked at the alien mother, still unconscious. He looked at the baby, peacefully sleeping. Then he looked at the cube again. It was now blinking red. They're coming, he whispered. He didn't know who or what, but he was sure of one thing. This wasn't just a mother running away with her child. This was a mother running from something powerful, something dangerous. And now they might be coming here. John grabbed the cube and stuffed it back into the bag. Then he got up, locked the door, and started covering the windows. He had survived wars before. He knew when danger was near. And danger was very close now. He checked his blaster, loaded it, and placed it beside the couch. Suddenly, a soft cry. He turned. The baby was awake, staring at him with wide purple eyes. Then, the baby reached a tiny hand toward the mother and let out a weak, broken cry, not of hunger, but of fear. John felt a chill run down his back. That baby knew something. That baby was warning him and the cube. It had just sent a signal, something. Or someone had been waiting for that signal, and now they knew where to come.